Hey everybody, welcome back to the Launch with Confidence podcast. Today I'm joined by Patrick Quiery. Hey, how are you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you for having me join this podcast with you.
Why don't you just tell us a little about yourself and what your responsibilities are as to get familiar with you?
Sure, I'd be glad. So I'm IntelliShift's VP of Product. I've been with IntelliShift for 11 years, and I've been immersed in this world of product, focusing on driving value through both hardware and software. My journey throughout IntelliShift over the last 11 years has been rooted in fleet management, where stakes are high and feedback loops are fast. Whether it's just optimizing telematics or building scale for platforms, my mission has always really been about turning complexity into clarity and insights into the impact for our customers.
So I'd love to kind of jump into our first question. And we had met beforehand, and I got to know you a little bit. And there's something that stood out to me that I really liked that you said. And I want to ask this question for our audience. When it comes to taking in feedback, that's both from like employees and your customers and prospects, how do you get product teams to understand, to communicate boundaries with people that are giving feedback? How do you communicate those?
Yeah, that's a big question, and it's definitely a difficult one that there's no one answer for. But really, I think the aspect of it is the worry about having to say no, and saying no is one of the most powerful tools a product leader has, and the most important skill that a product leader has to learn. And it's not just about shutting down ideas. It's about protecting the focus of your product, your platform, your business. And for me in the fleet management space, we often get requests for very niche features, whether it's from a small customer or a large customer. And earlier in my career, it would be scrambling to try to accommodate everything for everyone on a timeline that they needed it on. But over the time and over those 11 years, I've learned that aligning these requests with broader customers is really the value that drives the key focus within your roadmap and your vision and your mission as a company. For example, we had a request that came in for a custom dashboard. That was something that only this one client needed. Instead of building it outright for that one specific customer, you really need to dig into the why behind it. What is it that they're after? And in this, we discovered that there was a broader need for real-time vehicle health. And with that, we were able to deliver a more scalable feature that ended up serving dozens of clients, giving them real-time insights into the health of their vehicles, whether it was around oil levels to oil temperatures to engine pressures and much more. It's not just about delivering what's at the forefront, but it's digging deep, understanding the value, incorporating it into other parts of your feedback loop that you get, and then delivering it from there.
And it could be a struggle too, right? To not even saying no just to the first one, but to finding those points when you should be digging, especially in the SaaS world, right? Where we're dealing with other clients and customers. Now you have the biggest customer on the line, and they're giving you that request, right? They're giving the request for something big that you understand is very niche to them. How do you deal with a customer who is saying that, but know they have some weight to pull?
That is super difficult too, right? Because you feel this pressure, like you may be like the closer in the business, where if you don't deliver it, the deal's not going to close. You deliver it, the deal's going to close. But on the backside of it, what else is going to be impacted by you having to deliver this? So if I had to say one thing to product leaders, I think it's capturing the full picture is the first step to success. Understand, dig deep, don't make the promise on that first meeting. I think that's a false sense of security of what customers are actually after. I have met a lot of people throughout my time as a product leader in IntelliShift and in this fleet space. And I can assure you, some of our largest customers have become some of my best business friends and will talk highly of you, not because you're a yes man, but because you don't have to be afraid to say, I'm not too sure. I don't have the answer for that right now. And let the conversations continuously move to align you into that conversation. The worst thing you could do is say yes, or the worst thing you could say is, no, we're not going to do it. Take the feedback, analyze that feedback, and then the biggest thing is just making sure that you reach back out to that customer to give them the insights of what you're thinking, how you're feeling, how you could potentially see this working long term, and giving them the ideation of, well, this is where it could potentially line up in our future roadmap.
Especially when a decision, like it kind of stood out to me as you just said it, a decision that you can make that could impact 10 customers, 100 customers. So while you could have one conversation that you feel like went that direction, like, oh, yeah, I'll do what you need and we'll be done here, you might have to go have a dozen more conversations on why that doesn't fit other people's. So I think that ability is super important, as you point out.
Of course it is. It's one of the things is a conversation is only one data point, but think about how many other data points may be looking at that feature, but just haven't communicated it to you yet. Or it may have not been captured within your realm of ideation, where you look for your ways in which you prioritize or feature enhancements, product enhancements, etc. So yeah, conversations are key beyond even just a single conversation.
And flipping that, I know we've been talking about clients and customers, internal feedback. When you have executives, you have maybe some people that have a little more pool in the organization that want to see the product go in a certain way, their feedback and requests. How do you handle saying, maybe not saying no in those situations, but how do you handle that?
I think when you go to an internal conversation, it really comes more to providing data to back up your summarization, whether it is a go or a no-go type of statement. Everyone's going to have their feedback and want their hand in the pot. But if you can provide the data, which will be a key part of our discussion today, is really understanding data and how you can leverage data to provide feedback and provide the right vision through the growth of your product. I think for internal feedback, it's being able to provide data. One of the most recent things we had done is, every year we look through all of the features that we had done to our product. And we use tools like Pendo or others out there to understand how our customers are using that information. So an executive may say, hey, I really want you to build out this feature, this product. But you look at how much ARR you have going to that product. You have how many users are using that product on a day-to-day basis. Those data points can be really empowering to say, like, hey, I understand you want to go there, but what's the strategy for us to gain more ARR? What's the strategy to get more utilization? Because over this past 12 months, we've done X, Y, and Z features for that product, and we've only seen a 1 to 5% increase of utilization with some number of ARR tied to that. Does it make sense to spend X dollars to build out all these additional features that you want to when you may not see that return? Going back to the product leader aspect, it's not only getting the feedback from your customers, but it's understanding the financial data that supports the growth of the product as well, because we all have great ideas. We always want to build cool stuff, but if the money's not coming in for it, well, there's no value to that product or feature that you're building. So internal conversations, I think you need to have data to represent whether it's a go or a no-go behind that ask. When it comes to customers, it's once again just understanding the need, digging deeper, and communicating with others to make sure that that alignment is there for what you need to build.
In general, what signals do you look for when making those decisions? Like I know you mentioned you have a little bit of analytics, you have things like customer feedback or employee requests. Just as a product manager, all that information coming to you, what also are you looking for in terms of signals?
So we are looking at data throughout our whole environment. We are looking at our Salesforce or our CRM data for support requests to understand what types of issues are being had, what's the commonalities behind them, identifying the opportunities that may be in that CRM, both existing customers and looking at lost deals, and also looking at new prospective customers and close won and close loss reasons to identify why are we winning and where are we losing. And being able to use those as a touch point, as a signal to identify how and where we build our product roadmap. I think those are the biggest areas from a data perspective that helps us drive the direction of where we need to go.
And what do you think about externally? Are you looking at anything external to the company and within your realm of data sets, competition, market trends? Like what other things are you looking at?
And I think Capterra is a good place for that. But you'd be surprised on how people communicate through social media as well, even in a business environment. Um, Not naming anyone out there, but a couple months ago, there was a competitor of ours that had a post about some feature or whatever they were doing. And I clicked the comments and you see like 3 or 4 customers, and they are a huge competitor in our space. And look, rightfully so. It was a very small amount of people, but there were people who were complaining, and they give you the reasons of why they're complaining and talk about customer acquisition. Like that's your perfect insights of like capturing frustrated customers and showing them how someone else in the industry could solve those needs. So I think Capterra, social media, and overall just understanding, scraping what they're doing through social media, the vendors themselves are doing through social media, their knowledge bases, their public websites, can be a useful tool for any software product out there, or any hard product too. Can be a great way for you to understand what's happening out beyond what your customers are saying on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. In terms of scale, I mean, in a B2B sense and software sense, like one more customer is more revenue. When you think about it from a B2C perspective and some hardware, one customer's could be, depending on your product, a couple $100, some money here and there. So it becomes a little bit of a numbers game there. But I think it's such a solid strategy for B2B and software, listening to what's going on and looking at those complaints. That's the ability to pull over a customer. That's the ability to differentiate your product. And those just sound like very powerful techniques and things to look for product managers. Anything else that kind of stands out to you, like in your sales data, your support data, anything else that you kind of pull in to help make those decisions, maybe about roadmap or new product lines?
Yeah, I think, just one last area is understanding integrations. You have to understand as a software business, and that's the where I can speak to is in a software realm, is you can't be the best at everything. So being able to create pivotable integrations and partnerships, whether it's maintenance or whether it's routing or inspections or anything that falls in between, may be the right way to go. Why do you need to spend X number of dollars building out a product when there's 7 different vendors out there that are doing it? You don't need to be the 8th trying to compete with that, where you can build integrations with the top 3 and get more revenue, but still remain that sticky factor where even though it's not your product that's keeping them there, it's the join between how the 2 products share information that keeps them sticky in the long run. So you may not get all the revenue, but you're getting a good portion of that revenue that you would have had.
And usage too, right? Like if you're integrating with something and people use your product more because they're already using those products, integration is an absolutely wonderful point. Like it's connections to other companies. It's like it's so powerful in terms of the flow of data from your product to somewhere else, especially if there's another business system that your customers are using, and maybe it's something they can't do without, and they're not looking to replace that thing they can't do without. So very, very smart. Love to hop over to our next one. In terms of once you're getting ready to build something, what role do users, what role do your customers and your clients play in kind of determining what you build and what don't you build?
Well, I want to just jump back because we talked a lot about data and where we capture data from. And that may seem very difficult for a business, and it is. But I think if you adapt the right tools, you can learn how to collect the data in a more automated fashion, but also how to connect that data. So before you try to understand how your users play a role in that, I just want to say I think the biggest thing is getting the insights that are in these hidden places and finding the best way to connect them to aggregate that information for you as a product leader to be able to make the best decisions there. And I think that's where AI, just to jump down that rabbit hole for a moment, I think that's where AI is holistically changing the game. Instead of manually combing through social media, you can have an agentic workflow, scrape social media, scrape company websites, scrape Capterra, knowledge bases, and so on. And then if you can group them into various themes where, generative AI plays a huge facet in, for you to label, categorize, and group, allows you to save a lot of time, a lot of resources, and gain useful insights that you sometimes one person in of themselves or even a team wouldn't be able to connect those dots. But in the role of a user, I think the aggregation of data is just the beginning. If a feature request comes in for a strategic customer, or it aligns with a broader market trend, it may carry more weight than a one-off suggestion. And at IntelliShift, we've built internal models that tag and score various sets of feedback based upon the customer's type. So understanding the size of that client, the revenue that they bring in, the weight of that client, the frequency at which a customer may engage with that product based upon how often they're talking about certain terms, understanding the urgency behind it to understand how it impacts their business. It really helps us start at that level to prioritize what matters most to our customers.
And in terms of so you use all the signals, customers are obviously part of one of the signals that come in. I had this conversation with another product leader the other day from a community that we run. I think you're part of the community as well. One that we do meet up monthly. The concept of validation of those ideas, not just from a conceptual level of okay, we want to go this direction. I used all the signals. I have a direction I like to go, and now we want to get that thing built, and then we want to validate that thing. There's always, I always say that there's this gap between what people will say that they want, and then 3 months later, 6 months later, 9 months later, we've built something for them. What's changed since then? What changed in the translation of engineering and product from when we built it to what the user is going to do now? So what role would a user play in that validation layer?
100%. Timing is everything. And avoiding the building in a vacuum is going to be a key aspect here. And for me, user validation shouldn't wait until the end. Whether it's 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year to build whatever it is that you're building, we at IntelliShift loop in our customers at 3 or more key stages. One of them is around problem framing. Now, this can happen in a multitude of ways, whether it's a quarterly client advisory board, which for us, that's a group of core customers, anywhere between 25 to 50 different customers that we find to be core. We'll meet with them on a quarterly basis. And we'll go through each of these with them based upon where we are in certain features or products. Or it could be having one-off conversations with customers that, hold value or have provided insights. So we do it at a problem framing to make sure, are we solving the right thing, right? Because, you may have 7, 10, 100 different pieces of feedback all around this problem, but everyone wants it done in a particular way. So frame up the problem, frame up how you're going to solve that problem. Now, once you have gathered all that information, that's where we start to go into our technical specifications and our prototype building. Now, prototype building for many companies could be very different. Some of them could be very basic wireframes to some low fidelity to high fidelity Figma designs or some design tool, right? Adobe XD or something in between, all the way to using AI and, building a prototype with, Figma AI or V0 or something like that. And we'll leverage a multitude of them depending upon where we are in the phase of our iteration of a product, right? Sometimes it's easier to do high fidelity designs at a later stage where, AI-based designs is easier to do at an early stage because you're not really having to worry about capturing the brand holistically. And wireframes could be for very simple workflows. So then once we've built out the specifications, the prototypes, and have the workflow, we'll meet with those users again. And we will make sure that the workflow, the design, the experience that a user gets, make sure it resonates with how they would actually engage with that. And then lastly, which is where you guys really play a factor in, is around, pre-launch testing, right? Beta testing, alpha testing, et cetera, is making sure that the solving and the user experience actually drive the impact that they were after before you go to market and a full scale and make this available to a large breadth of your customers? Did we really drive the impact we were after? And that's where I think a successful alpha or beta test, where you market it to a specific subset of your customers to help drive that validation, really plays a factor. So to sum it up, I think it's really validating early and often, avoid building in a vacuum. Timing is everything, and don't wait to the end. Um, and I think it's just making sure that you're building something that's functional and also valuable to a large, broader segment of your business.
Yeah, I think that continuous layer, I think, is perfect, especially for modern development. We need to have not just our ear to the ground; they need to be involved. That idea of co-creation and co development with your market is an enormous signal that you can use at any time. So product managers having access is very, I think, very useful for continuous sense. Patrick, I'd love to hop into our rapid fire questions. So these would just be very, very brief questions. So answer as short as possible to get your point. If you do need to elaborate, please do so. Start off with coffee or tea.
100% a coffee person.
Morning person or night owl?
100% a morning person. I'm a 4 a.m. guy every day.
Ooh, 4 a.m. That's a
Yeah,
different kind of morning, my friend.
it's one of those things where I just find peace in the morning. I get up, shower, have my first cup of coffee, and I sit down behind the screen before your day gets crazy. It's for me as a product person, I love that focus time. I couldn't give it up for the world, to be honest with you.
What's one tool you can't live without?
Whew. For me, I'd have to say it's going to be Product Board or Jira, right? For those product management based tools. Um, for my own personal growth, though, I would really say anything that's going to help you learn, whether it's DataCamp or Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn. I think for business, your business tool, I think, is going to be big. For me, it's on the personal side, it's going to be some sort of learning tool.
Favorite book you'd recommend to somebody? It could be work or non-work related.
So for me, my favorite book is The Four. And there's just one reason why I want to say that to you. For those that who haven't read The Four, it's about the four big software giants out there. And it's an older book by now, but I would love for you to, if you take anything from this outside of the business aspect, read the book again and think about one thing they said in that book, which is there anyone out there that's going to be able to upset one of the four and take over that spot? Or is there going to be a fifth? Then correlate to what the realm of AI is doing in the tech space. And I think within the next 5 years, the four won't be the four anymore. Either it will be a five or someone's going to take over that fourth spot. So I think for me right now, The Four would be my number one favorite book to recommend just because of what's happening in technology.
That context of anything going on, you're a different person. So I have some of my favorite books. I was just talking to someone on my team earlier, and we talked about High Output Management by Andy Grove. We've probably read it like a dozen times, but every time we go back to it, it's like, oh, here's something else because something's changed. Either business has changed or we've changed. Or it's just so many dynamics. I think that context is so important. So I love the recommendation to pick it up again if you haven't done so in a bit. Who's one product leader you admire?
So this is a tough one for me. And I really can't say that there's one of the traditional exact sense of a product leader. For me, I more look towards the company leaders themselves, and you could potentially call them the original product leader. Um, in a big tech space, I really do love Jeff Bezos and what he's done for driving efficiency in our home and everyday life, to Elon Musk, to what he's doing to health and technology, to it's just some of those people who can go from the ground up, take all the risks. Those would be the leaders that I admire. And I wouldn't call them your traditional leader, like, the product leader of Google today. I really look towards the CEOs of the businesses because those are your original product leaders.
First app you check in the morning?
Outlook or Microsoft Teams. It's scary.
Got to keep the pulse. What
Yeah.
happened during the night
Yeah.
that I have to take care of now? If you weren't in product, what job would you be doing?
Somewhere in criminal justice. I had, for those who don't know me, I had spent years in school for forensic science before I had transitioned into the tech realm. So for me, it would be going to forensic science.
Oh man, that'd be cool. I've got a handful of those books, and my wife absolutely loves those shows. So, one word your team would use to describe you.
So I'm going to say the word. I'm not a fan of the word, but I'm going to say the word. It's a robot. That's by far the number one phrase I get called. You could see it on social media. People comment. You could see it in internal team chats or emails. It's not something that I resonate with, but it is for sure what I get called the most.
I'll change it to be a machine, and that
There
one's
you go.
way cooler. All right, favorite way to recharge outside of work.
Building things or learning something new. I'm a big hobbyist, and I'll do anything that takes my self out of just my brain, right? I work with my fingers and my hands every day. For me, I like to work with my hands and not really focus on typing on a keyboard after work. So doing anything in a hobbyist mindset is really how I go to recharge.
Last one. What's a product you love that more people should know about?
That for me is going to be anything that helps you learn and grow. I don't want to be a person that directs you down a path of a product. I have a lot that I love. But for me, I think something that teaches you how to make tomorrow better than today. And for me, that's implementing AI. It's been a new journey for me over the last 12 months. So for me, I'm learning on how to implement AI efficiently, effectively, and I am seeing immense change in the day to day and the efficiency that I have. So once again, I think it's just any product that shapes a better tomorrow for you.
Awesome. All right, Patrick, that's it for us. I've really had a great time talking with you. Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thank you for having me. I hope to be here again soon.